So I'm just dropping off my children at school in Malmo, Sweden, and it hasn't really changed. What has coronavirus changed at school? Is anything different because of coronavirus? Is there anything that you do differently at school?
Yes.
What do you do?
The gym. You have to do it outside.
This school has never closed, and really there's been, apart from a few posters stuck up saying wash your hands, there haven't really been any changes in the way it has been for parents at all. Parents still mingle in the schoolyard just the same as they always did. The sort of end of school ceremonies parents weren't invited to, and parent-teacher conversations are done over the phone rather than in person, and as children say, gyms outside. But apart from that, everything's pretty much stayed on as normal, which has been fantastic for me and all the other parents, because we've been able to carry on working just like normal.
We have a lot of time taken away from our classes and our lessons because they have to wash their hands before everything, and it takes about 15 minutes every day. We keep distance. We do all of our PE lessons outside, so no insides, and we have longer queues for food. I think it's good, yeah, for the kids, because the kids aren't from what I know, the biggest source of like infection and spread of the disease, so I think it's good, yeah.
And what about for the staff? Do you feel you're in a danger zone?
I don't feel it, some do, but they stay home. We had a lot of kids be home for a long time in the beginning, but now everyone's back.
We haven't had to stay home and juggle childcare with work life, which the benefits of that are almost incalculable, I think actually. I think almost it's something which doesn't get reflected in the statistics of how much people have been able to carry on with their work, social and normal lives in Sweden in a way that just hasn't been possible almost anywhere else in Europe, or even, you know, almost anywhere else in the world. So I felt quite fortunate to have been here during the pandemic. Here I'm going into the Mittimöllen. It's a food court which is quite popular with people working in offices. This place has it's carried on throughout the pandemic, so it's never really closed down. But I think in March and April you wouldn't have seen people as crammed together on the tables as they are today. I mean, today it looks pretty much back to normal. I think that might change if we see a surge in infections in Sweden. This market stayed operating throughout the pandemic, and this square is also a place, there's a lot of bars and restaurants around, and I've been out and they've been pretty much seeing the same amount of custom as you would normally see throughout the pandemic.
They have followed the recommendation because they are not mandatory and there are no punishments. That's why.
You think people are more likely to follow it if it's not mandatory?
Yes, I think so. Because if you order people to do something, they will probably do it. But when people don't see you, they will do the opposite.
I think it's been pretty rational. I think the politicians have listened to the scientists and done it. I think they do it as best as they can.
Sweden's strategy has been for people to use their common sense and to keep a distance from each other, and if they're ill you're supposed to stay home and you're supposed to wash your hands and do a lot of hygiene. And I think that Swedes are quite rule-following people, so I think people largely have done that. I know that if I get a cold or a cough, my wife is very adamant that I must stay home, and she does that the same herself, and I think most people are like that. And that might be why Sweden has managed to at least keep the infection levels to a level where hospitals haven't been overwhelmed, without having to impose the same kind of restrictions as in other countries. I'm not sure it would have worked in the UK or in France, where people aren't as rule following and don't have the same trust in the authorities.